Nestled on a field of white plushness, this home, quaint with dormers and window panes, could read as the fruits of the American dream realized.
It's also like a row of bushes, of hedges, and this idea of like a collection of wood or sticks as a bird's nest, a bird's home.
That's the take of artist Hugh Hayden, who is a connoisseur of contradictions. He knows his installation titled Hedges will have myriad interpretations, that these branches, thrusting forward in a prickly joust, can also read as a barrier to the American dream, preventing access to this home and the others mirrored in Hayden's infinite neighborhood.
It's like a fantasy, the American dream being like a myth, or a fantasy sometimes of this thing that's hard to obtain or achieve or difficult to inhabit. But it is possible to also, find your way in it, because also the branches are also being protective.
Hayden, who is receiving a major mid-career survey at Brandeis University's Rose Art Museum outside Boston, dwells in dichotomy, in the dual nature of frying pans as melting pots, a finely crafted baby's crib with teeth, and in this latter titled Higher Education, with its teetering shears, it grows more menacing the higher one climbs. Or does it?
Some of them are open, some of them closed, but scissors or pruners or hedgers are sharp and, it could be a knife per se. But there's a notion of cultivation and education, this idea that, education, the higher you go, is supposed to be helping you, and it's cultivating you into the molding you into this model citizen.
I think he's a force of nature.
Sarah Montross is co-curator of the show and chief curator of the nearby De Cordova Sculpture Park and Museum, featuring Hayden's outdoor sculpture Huff and a Puff, one of many installations presented by the artist at parks and museums around the country. It offers a warped take on Henry David Thoreau's famed one-room cabin at nearby Walden Pond.
He is a very precise, dedicated maker, often working late into the hours, himself still kind of perfecting his own work, and that to me is a sign of a great artist.
Hayden is a trained architect, but left the practice after 10 years to become a full-time artist. Ganeet Ankori, the Rose's director and co-curator of the show, says Hayden's background in design makes him the perfect disruptor of the ordinary.
There's enough that's familiar that draws you in. Yes, this is a desk, this is a school desk, this is a chair, this is a coat, this is a house. But then it's also strange, so uncanny, unheimlich, as Freud would say.
Hayden keeps his materials familiar too, and works primarily in wood, because virtually everyone has a connection to trees.
If I'm able to change what you think a piece of wood or a tree can be, this thing that's been around you subliminally like your whole life, it's a way in of maybe changing your perspective on some of the more like social or cultural, more complex issues my work is like kind of attempting to explore.
Like these football helmets, enmeshed, as he's titled it, in the kiss.
Football is hypermasculine, which is this sort of, can be homoerotic sport, but the interior of these like wooden helmets that are contrasting colors, oak and walnut, are filled with these like sort of thorny spikes instead of padding. It could instantly go into like, concussions and like the dangers of, high-impact sports.
Much of Hayden's work is autobiographical. The artist says as a tall black kid growing up in Texas, he was pressured to play football despite his zero interest. But it also gave rise to his ongoing exploration of what it means to fit in. You're dressed in camouflage.
Yes.
We see camouflage in the show. In what way is this a recurring theme for you?
One of the aspects of the American dream I'm exploring is like trying to inhabit a difficult space that's like desirable but also risky and challenging. I see camouflage as this sort of metaphor for blending into a natural landscape as vis-a-vis a social landscape.
Which may be Hugh Hayden's deepest layer, the irony of blending in while also calling glaring attention to the world.
You can see how accomplished and how prolific and how diverse the means through which he's creating sculpture can be. So that to me sets him up to become one of the leading generational voices of our time.